From September 1940 to May 1941, British cities were subjected to sustained aerial bombing attacks by the German Air Force in what became known as the Blitz. While major cities across the UK were targeted, London was bombed more heavily and more often than anywhere else. To learn more about the devastating impact the Blitz had on the capital, I've come to London Metropolitan Archives to meet with Tom Ferber and to see a remarkable map. So Tom, who produced this map and what was its original purpose?
We commonly just refer to these as the LCC bomb damage map. So LCC is London County Council, and they were the local government body in charge of London at the time. So it's like today's London Mayor or Greater London Authority. The maps were produced towards the end of the war, and they record, as you can see, the damage that London suffered. So the original map was made in 1916, it's a Northern Survey map. It was brought up to date in-house by the London County Council, and then the colours on the map show the amount of damage that London suffered. It ranges from black, which is total destruction, purple is damaged beyond repair, and basically the lighter the colours get, the less damage was sustained. If there's no shading, there was no damage. And you sometimes see green areas as well, and the green areas are areas that are to be cleared after the war to make way for new building work. We've got one sheet out today, a particularly interesting sheet that I'm looking forward to showing you in a bit more detail in a moment's time, but we have 110 of these sheets. So they cover London as it was known at the time, the County of London as it was known at the time, and it basically corresponds to what we think of London today, but with a few bits missing around the edges.
Mm-hmm. So what about these black circles that you see?
So the black circles show where a different type of weapon fell on the capital. So probably very familiar with bombs being dropped by aeroplanes, but towards the end of the war, from 1944 onwards, there was a series of attacks using missiles, called the V1 and V2s. The V1s were cruise missiles, so an engine would fly it to the target and it would land on London. The V2s were called ballistic missiles, so these are missiles that go up basically into space and then fall down on the target. And the damage done by these weapons is recorded slightly differently. Mm-hmm. So the large black circles show us where V1s fell, and the small black circles show us where the V2s fell.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is particularly significant about this map and what it tells us about the Blitz?
I think these maps are really special because they're really easy to understand. All you need to know is what the colours mean, and just by looking at it, you can get a real sense of what happened during the war. You can use them to tell these very well-known, famous national stories. For example, the map we've got out today, this is sheet 62, and sheet 62 shows the area around St. Paul's Cathedral. Most of us, maybe even all of us, if you're watching this video, will have seen the very famous photograph of St. Paul's covered in smoke and flame, surviving the Blitz. Well, this map shows that in a slightly different way, but it shows the same thing. You see St. Paul's with just two orange marks on it, surrounded in a sea of purple. It's a very poignant reminder of what was lost and what survived during the Second World War. So you can use it to tell those sort of national stories, but also it gives people a way into their local history, their neighbourhood history. So it gives a building by building, street by street view of what happened during the Second World War to people's neighbourhoods. Many of you, if you live in London, you've been to London, you've had that experience of wandering around the capital and thinking, oh, there's some historical buildings, and then almost sort of from space, a modern building has come down and carry on again. Not always, but very often, if you get the bomb damage map out, you can see some destruction or a clearance site. And I think it lets people connect with their neighbourhoods and their stories in really easy ways. That information is available in other formats in the archive, but it requires more digging through, more paperwork, more reading, more of a paper trail, but with these, it's just there for you to see.
And this really brings it home, doesn't it? You can see for yourself how people's homes, businesses, each one of these buildings coloured in purple is damaged beyond repair. That's someone's life turned upside down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things that is actually quite moving. Maybe not every time you look at it, there is an interesting sort of town history, architectural history that's played out here, but I find just every so often I'm looking at these maps in the flesh or online, and that kind of emotion just kind of cracks through, and you start to realise just what happened and the enormity of it and how it's really not very long ago at all.
No, you can imagine walking down these purple streets, everything around flat, yeah.
Yeah, and then These maps were used as well to rebuild London afterwards, and there's this extra dimension of how that process was managed, who got a stake in it, who didn't get a stake in it. And so the story of the rebuilding of London is covered in these maps as well, which is, I think, another really important part of the story these maps tell. They're recording damage or recording ruin, as one person who was responsible for compiling these maps put it. But they also show a city and a population thinking about the future as well, and using this as a way to build what they thought would be a better future. But that's become a very kind of contentious and difficult issue, quite what that better future meant for the people that were living in it.
So what other material do you have here at LMA if I want to find out more about the Blitz and the reconstruction of London after the war?
We have just a huge amount of stuff. I might be exaggerating a little bit if I say we have miles of information, but probably only just. So we heard that this is from the London County Council collection, so they were responsible for all manner of wartime planning and wartime management, through to food supplies, dealing with bomb damage, schools, and a myriad of other things as well. So lots of those well-known war stories around evacuation, rationing, shelters, bomb damage can be traced through that archive. We also have the records of various individuals and businesses from the time, so that's a way through. So there's lots of ways in. It's such a vast topic. The hardest thing is probably knowing where to start and what to leave out, not anything else. So a good way to start is probably before you even come to the archive. So we have an online catalogue, but for this I'd probably recommend starting on a site called London Picture Archive, which is owned and managed by London Metropolitan Archives. You can see these maps, the whole series, both stitched together as one and individual maps. There's photographs of bomb damage, of schools, of the health service, all manner of things, aspects of that story. And from there you can maybe hone in on a part that particularly interests you, and then you can come in and say, I'm interested in a particular theme, schools, war damage, shelters, or a particular place, or a particular raid. It's up to you. So I'd start with London Picture Archive and move on to our catalogue, and then come and see us.